Nate, you know we got to talk about. We had the Hall of Fame game. We
Yeah.
saw what happened during that Hall of Fame game. And on our Thursday show, we actually, for my segment, had a thing on who was going to perform better, Davis Mills or Tyson Bagent. Well, everybody was against Davis Mills because he threw these many picks or these many interceptions when he actually started for Houston. And I was like, look, there's something in me that tells me that Tyson Bagent is still a D2 quarterback and still an undrafted free agent. So there was something that told me that he was not going to be it. But everybody was, because he had the most recent starting experience, everybody was pointing towards him. I said, I saw how he played against the Saints. And it was not what a
No.
starter should look like.
No.
And so Davis Mills was my guy. They ended up both playing bad, pretty bad, but Davis Mills, I think, threw like 10 for 15 and a touchdown, which is a whole lot better than what Tyson Bagent threw for. But a man who came in for Tyson Bagent by the name of Brett Rypien, I think I'm pronouncing his last name right.
Ripien, Ripien, Ripien,
Is it
Ripien,
Rypien?
Ripien.
He was playing balls to the walls, Nate. He went out there and threw 3 tutties to some practice squad wide receivers and looked like the second coming of Fitzmagic.
You
It
know,
was crazy, but it's just a preseason game, you know.
but let me tell you something about that. What you can't take into what you can't overlook is the fact that these guys are competing for jobs.
Well, the backup job.
Like that they're competing for spots on the 53-man roster and whatnot. Um, so again, you some people who you could say quote unquote like their positions are set in stone on the team, they can overlook it. But we I've been there. I've been in that position where you're going out there competing for a spot on the roster. So they don't take these plays lightly and whatnot. And then on top of that, what you got to do, the smart thing you got to do also is during the preseason, you got to really pay attention and be in tune for the game, whether it's offensively or defensively, because you're going to be running the same plays over and over. Like the opposing team's going to be running the same plays over and over. So you got to again take advantage of the opportunities when they come your way, and so forth. But again, Brett he played amazing, and when you know that you're competing for a spot on this roster, and you may feel that your repetitions may not be as high, when you go out there and you get those calls and whatnot, you got to make them count, and that's what Brett did.
Oh, he made it count. He made it count because it was crazy. Now it was just against a preseason defense. I understand that. This is why I'm not like overhyping him and saying he needs to be the starter for the Chicago Bears. But it would make an interesting segment, and it would make Bruce really, really mad if I told him that Ripien, right, should be the starter. Because I remember he's been on a couple teams. He's been flip flopping on a couple teams before. So his name is not unfamiliar to me. I just don't know how to pronounce it. But as the preseason is underway, you kind of already given us a little taste of what there is to expect, Nate.
Hmm?
But for somebody that has been on one of those rosters trying to compete for a spot, tell me how the competition works. Obviously, you're on a team, right? But is there a little bit of competition that is almost like y'all are on opposite teams with players of the same position that are trying to fight for a 53-man spot?
Most definitely. I mean, you want to go out there and everybody's competing for a spot. Now you got to look at the roster. You look at the breakdown of the roster. Guys that again it's 53 players. Each position got to take the depth necessary and whatnot. Um, and when you go out there competing, it's like you want to make sure you want to have your best days at practice and whatnot, making plays, not just on offense and defense. That's important, but you got to make them on special teams. Special teams is what really saves players. You know what I'm saying? The more you can do on special teams, I'm gonna tell you what Todd Bowles had taught me my early years, my first 3 years in the league. The more you can do, playing multiple positions, being just a standout on special teams, and when special teams periods come in practice, you need to be the first person in the line and get many repetitions. You want to have many coachable moments. Um, the more you can do. again, going out there and maximizing the opportunities and studying your playbook and knowing what to do and so forth. And then when you out there competing and so forth, you see your guys out there, people gonna give up a touchdown or, do something, make a mistake and whatnot. But you want to limit those mistakes and those MEs, as we call them, and you want to go ahead and capitalize on, excuse me, the big plays, pass deflections, tackles, interceptions, things like that from a DB standpoint. So again, you kind of smile on the inside, like, okay, when people are messing up, because you're like, okay, well, this is going to make a way for me to go ahead and get more reps. But when you get those reps, what are you going to do with those reps?
You got to make them count.
Exactly.
I mean, there are a ton of people where I can say he's listed as this player, but he really isn't that player because of what he serves on the special teams unit. JT Gray, for example, is, I think now, I might be mistaken about this, but special team wise, he has been voted the special team captain for the Saints for the past 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
He went to Mississippi State. I wish I would have saw him. He was at the event where I saw all the state players, but he wasn't there. He was on the Zoom call, whatever. But that dude is positioned as a D tackle. Well, he's no D tackle. If you look at his stats, there's no D tackle stats on him. It is all special teams. This guy's a special teams machine, and we only have him there because of one reason: to get special teams reps.
Yeah.
Plus, he's a leader. He knows what to do. And I mean, honestly, it's the same like a guy like Matthew Slater.
I can say it's a couple of guys. Larry Izzo, by far, excuse me, in my opinion, is the greatest special teamer. Him and Matthew Slater are the greatest special teamers. Again, we've seen guys at Josh Cribbs. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man.
Dante Hall. You know what I'm saying? The human joystick. Again, a lot of people have to understand that special teams plays a big role, and some guys have literally made their career and got their first start on special teams. And I'm gonna throw one out there for you, Terrell Davis, one of the greatest to ever do it, running down on kickoff. So you have to really make the most of the opportunity when you get your individual reps on offense or defense, but you got to make the special teams reps really count.
And I love it when people do, because it shows that they're not taking that opportunity for granted. They could go out there and say, okay, well, I'm better than this. I was drafted in X round. Why am I playing special teams? Why am I not playing wide receiver? Why am I not playing D tackle? And it's players like that you want to keep around, because they're not loyal to themselves. They're loyal to the organization they're playing for, because they know that organization gave them a chance to play football, and they're not going to take it for granted. But there's some people who think they're better than that and honestly waste what they've been given, which is, whatever. What if it works out? You want to keep going from team to team, practice squad to practice squad.
Yeah.
That's because something with Zay Flowers too. I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but a big part of him getting drafted was his loyalty. He was on the front end, the back end of his career of the transfer portal.
Yep.
And he played for a 3-win team, Boston College. Well, they were projected not to win 3 wins his last year in college, but he stayed because of loyalty. Loyalty is such a big factor to some teams, and which is why the Ravens ended up selecting him. They liked his loyalty. He was a good wide receiver. But when you have a guy like that, that's not going to say, okay, well, I'm better than the team that I am playing for. That is somebody you have to keep around. Matthew Slater, we can talk about it. That dude is an all-pro. He could have left easy.
He could have left easy and got paid.
That's what I'm saying. And I honestly, though, I think not money though, but winning was his deciding factor. Yes.
Yeah, winning was a deciding factor. I mean, what Matthew is, I think, 3 or 4 time Super Bowl champion. That's what matters. Because I mean, I've said this so many times. When you compete for championships. You compete to win championships. That's what we do. You say hi to Connor? Yeah, excuse me. As y'all see, our kids are up. Our kids are up, and they love mom and dad.
But I mean, you're right. We had that Patrick Mahomes segment last week where we talked about the new QB deals and everything, and you were like, "Look, this dude is tied 11th for the highest paid player in the league, and arguably he's the best player in the league.
Yes, he is.
Arguably, which the NFL 100 list came out. We'll talk about that later on. See what happened. But this guy, he's not obsessed. He's not intertwined with the fact of being the highest paid player. And you love to make the comparison of Tom Brady. Well, Tom Brady was never like that. He loved to win. The adrenaline rush, the thrill it gave him to win games, to go in, run a 2-minute offense in the fourth quarter, and go in and win one possession down and beat the team to progress your team in the Super Bowl or in the playoffs to the Super Bowl is just something else that money can't buy.
It's a high. It's really a high that cannot be matched. To be honest with you, and again, when you ask Tom Brady, when you asked Tom during the interview what was his favorite Super Bowl ring, he always said the next one. And again, this is when greatness, and you've seen the greatness on with work ethic, his application to the sport, to his craft, and getting better, and to the leadership aspect of his team and whatnot. He became one of those individuals that was just so consumed with winning that's all it was. Like, he didn't care what it was. All he wanted to do was win. You have the likes of the great Michael Jordan, the late great Kobe Bryant, guys that are competitors that really, all I care about is winning. I don't care what I have to do, but when that clock is zero, we win, you lose. That's what drove it. And it's like one of those type of moments where it's like it weighs on you. It's just all you do is eat, sleep, and think, win, and competing.
And I mean, you could take somebody, and I love, obviously, I don't like that he's compared to the GOAT, because then that insinuates that he would be atop my GOAT. But Peyton Manning always told his receivers and his offense and his team that whenever third quarter came, you know how they say, like, you playing in like third quarter mode, or like you playing to win the game. He told them, I want you to play like that, but when the first quarter clock starts ticking down. He made his receivers play like that the entire game and expected it of
them. He had them mentally thinking that, this is a 2-minute drive. Each drive was a 2-minute drive. So that's just the way the greats psych themselves out in that moment, because that moment it's a big moment. Competing, but you have to relish and appreciate those moments. Those moments, again, it's a saying that pressure does two things. It bursts pipes and it creates diamonds. It's going to do one of those two things.
No, and I love that. And I mean, we could tie it even back to the preseason stuff. There's so much pressure on these preseason guys to make something of themselves, to do something for their teams. And you're right. One thing's going to happen. Something's going to bust, or something that is unbreakable and beautiful is going to form. And maybe that's a 53-man roster spot.
But you want to know something else? Since we're talking about that, you look for these moments in the preseason, but also in training camp. You look for these moments to come where it's like, it's a defiance. It's in itself for a lot of players that are undrafted, a lot of players that are late round draft picks and whatnot, free agent signings. They look. These are the moments. These are their Super Bowl moments and whatnot. When you go out there and you compete and you earn a job, because I'm gonna tell you something about the NFL. NFL is always looking to get younger. That next year is going to be somebody that's going to be chomping at your heels for your position. And what can you do to get better? You made the active 53-man roster this year. That was one of the things that was driven to me. Okay, you made the roster this year. Next year, we got to make the field. We got to make the roster again, but we got to make the field with our play and whatnot. You got to take these are the mindsets that you have to take to again succeed. And you can never get complacent and feel like, okay, well, I'm good. No, when you're uncomfortable is when you should be comfortable. I'm gonna say that again. When you're uncomfortable is when you should be comfortable.
And I love this from Rob. He said, "Pressure is a privilege." By Kirby Smart.
Kirby Smart. Kirby. Listen, and you know where Kirby got that from?
Probably Stoops, if I had to guess.
No, old man Nick.
Oh,
old man Nick Saban. You know, again, you got pressure. These moments, you live for them. You love it. That's when you find out about, you know, what number one, your competitiveness. That you find out about how much you love the game. Your knowledge of the game. How much you have put into training for these moments.
Well, I know you wanted to talk about something. I'm going to try to segue into it before we get to our ad or next segment or whatever. But preseason, of course, these players are a privilege. Being an NFL player is a privilege. To be an NFL coach is a privilege. And we talk about the new NFL coaches not too long ago back. And one of those guys is Jim Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we can say, okay, well, why did Jim Harbaugh leave after he won a natty? Was there nothing left he had to prove in college? Was there something that was going around in college he wanted to get out of? What was the deal? Nate, you know the answer to that question. Tell me what's been going on. Lay it out for a few seconds. Be brief, few minutes, and let's talk about what's happening in Michigan.
Okay, well, what happened is basically everybody knows the ship was getting ready to sink in Michigan with all of the sanctions and so forth. So I'm not a betting man, but I will bet right now. I'm going to leave and jump ship knowing that all of the stuff is getting ready. The house is coming down and whatnot. Now, did he win a national championship? Yes, he did. Did he go out there and fulfill, you know what, again, his goal when they signed him was to win a national championship, was to compete for a national championship. And he did that. But in doing so, he broke some rules. And everything came back. It came forefront for him. So the smartest thing for him to do was to NFL opportunity present itself, go back to the NFL, so you don't have to deal with the scrutiny of what's going to happen with the University of Michigan.
And apparently, it was a level 1 violation.
I don't know, Rob.
I think that's what I saw. Which he might be in some. If it is level 1, he might be in some deep doo-doo. But I don't know how they're going to trace it back to Jim Harbaugh once he's jumped ship. Like, how does that work? Can he still get in trouble for something in NCAA if he's in the NFL?
Yeah, because I mean we gotta go back to the Reggie Bush thing. Can it affect it?
Yeah, can he get in trouble being an NFL head coach while having a level 1 and 2 violation in the NCAA? Or would that prevent him from, say he wants to go back to college like he did his first NFL run? Would that have a prevention?
Okay, yeah. Rob, do you know if that would have an effect on him going to another college? Would that follow him, even though the infractions were done by the University of Michigan? Would those infractions follow him to whatever college he goes to?
I mean, this is kind of a Urban Meyer situation if you want to think about it, because Urban Meyer left Ohio State quick. Yeah, not in the NFL. If he comes back, then has a show cause, he will get hit with it. So yes, it will. Okay. Because it's still in effect. Okay, shoot. So it will follow him. So it's best he stays in the NFL.
That's what something that me and Rob were talking about probably about an hour or so ago in that regard with Harbaugh, with the sanctions and whatnot. And what does it mean for the University of Michigan? Are they going to lose scholarships? I beg that I don't think they would have to forfeit any games. Now, okay, if we
maybe a bowl game.
I don't.
Maybe.
Would that be the national championship? But then let me ask you this. Well, let's go back to Les Miles. Why did Les have to forfeit those games?
I don't think Les Miles cheat. He didn't do any cheating. He just was doing like.
Rob, can you help us?
Maybe I'm wrong, but I know the reason Les Miles, what he got in trouble for, was kind of like getting in with college students and stuff. Like he was sleeping with college students and stuff.
But wait, didn't he had to forfeit some games?
But I don't remember what it could have. I don't remember what happened. I was young.
Because I think that's the thing that's keeping him out of the Hall of Fame. Because him having to forfeit those games
puts him underneath the win percentage.
The win percentage.
Because I think you have to have a 60% win percentage to be considered a college Hall of Fame head coach. And him forfeiting those were big wins. If we're talking about what he had to forfeit, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
That would even hurt because big wins make a career, make a head coaching career. And if you have to forfeit those big wins, like say you beat Bama and Nick Saban, but you have to forfeit it. Oh, well, then you might have a 60% win percentage, but you coach the Sun Belt Conference.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see. Michigan will more than likely not have to forfeit games or face a postseason ban because Ole Miss got banned, had a suspension not too long ago. All that happened was they had to forfeit a bowl game. They could not make a bowl game for the next season or two. My dad would know. He knows what would happen. If he's here, he knows what happened. But that's what my assumption was. And Les Miles had ineligible players.
That's why he had to forfeit those games right there. That's why he had to forfeit. And he had to forfeit, Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, he had to forfeit all the games that those ineligible players played in, right? Or on the roster.
I mean, I would assume. But, I mean, you got people that are 28 in college now. So it's like, he vacated 37 wins and it rendered him ineligible for that is crazy. 37 wins?
That's the national championship year too, right?
Oh my gosh. Did he have ineligible players during that? Golly.
That's national championship year.
That is crazy.